So, while I was editing this video, Nintendo dropped the Switch 2 Direct, which introduced Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment and Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 editions. For added context, I recorded this before the Direct, but it still works as long as you consider everything I say with those announcements. Like for example, me saying some of the characters in Tears of the Kingdom are kind of weak personality-wise. That could be fixed with Hyrule Warriors and stuff like that. So just take that into consideration and yeah, let's get into it. So, I just started replays in both Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. I started the Tears of the Kingdom replay first and then went on to Breath of the Wild after not touching either since beating Tears of the Kingdom when it came out. And I gotta say, Breath of the Wild holds up incredibly. I'm having a blast with both, but since I forgot Breath of the Wild a lot more, it felt amazing to go back into it. It's the same with Tears of the Kingdom, but to a lesser extent because I played it more recently. This got me thinking about how someone playing these games for the first time might never get to experience Breath of the Wild because it's the older one of the two, and Tears of the Kingdom is objectively a better game, expanding on everything Breath of the Wild did, and so they might just play Tears of the Kingdom first. So I want to make a video discussing if Breath of the Wild is still worth playing now. Now both of these games are incredible, the open world is so well made, and it feels like everything throughout the experience was planned out by Nintendo, but still with so much choice for you to do whatever you want. I want to compare these two in multiple categories and determine which one is worth playing first, so make sure to tickle that subscribe button and let's get into it. Let's start with the open world. Breath of the Wild's open world is breathtaking. It's so expansive and exploring the world feels incredible. Tears of the Kingdom's open world is an upgrade with changes to the world as well as adding the Sky Islands and the depths. The Sky Islands are kind of cool, but they feel pretty underutilized. They just have these random small floating islands with like a chest, maybe some Zonai enemies, and that's pretty much it. The depths are pretty interesting though. Exploring them for the first time was really fun, and it has some unique mechanics that work with the overworld, like the light routes being under every single shrine. So if you find a shrine, you know where the light route is, and so you can explore both by exploring one of them. There's also your broken weapons respawning in the depths. You can also rematch all the bosses from each dungeon in the depths. And you can seamlessly travel to all three layers of the open world. I think they really did maximize the freedom they could give on the Switch without making it blow up. Breath of the Wild's open world feels really grounded, which is a good thing because you're more likely to explore more stuff in Breath of the Wild than in Tears of the Kingdom. Because in Tears of the Kingdom, you could just make a hover bike and just fly around with all these crazy Zonai devices and stuff, and you can miss some really cool parts of the open world that you just didn't get to explore because you flew past them instead of, walking everywhere and actually exploring it. I know this is true because I missed some pretty cool stuff with way more hours in Tears of the Kingdom than in Breath of the Wild, and this was just in the main overworld. I'm not even talking about the Sky Islands and the depths. So I think Breath of the Wild's open world is definitely worth experiencing even if Tears of the Kingdom expands on it a lot. Now let's talk about the tools given to you in each game by starting with the runes. Breath of the Wild has the two bomb types, Stasis, Magnesis, and Cryonis. Also the camera, but that's kind of different, and also Tears of the Kingdom has one too. Tears of the Kingdom has Ultra Hand, Fuse, Ascend, Recall, and Auto Build. Now let's compare the two. Bombs are a really useful tool to always have on you, but Tears of the Kingdom just makes them bomb flowers you have to find, or time bombs as a Zonai device rather than a permanent part of your moveset. Having it as a permanent part of your moveset was really nice because in some situations in Breath of the Wild, you just didn't have a weapon to use or you didn't want them to break. So having an attack that was always there with you, being the bombs, that also needed some strategy on where you threw them, it worked well. Stasis was also really good, and you could launch objects in any direction with it too, and even ride it, which were stasis launches, and I thought that was really cool. Recall just makes every object go backwards in time, which I think actually gives you less control than stasis, so I would say stasis is actually better. They're both good though. Magnesis is just an objectively worse version of Ultra Hand. Ultra Hand lets you grab and attach anything with each other, while Magnesis just lets you pick up only metal objects, and also you can't attach them like with Ultra Hand. Auto Build is there to be an Ultra Hand log and have some builds saved to create it instantly. Cryonis and Fuse are pretty different and can't really be compared. I did kind of miss Cryonis in Tears of the Kingdom. It was pretty unique, and a lot of the puzzles in Breath of the Wild were fun to solve with Cryonis, plus it lets you traverse the world better. Fuse is incredible though, and actually gives a purpose to all the random objects you collect besides just selling them and using them to cook food to get random effects. I think the tools in Tears of the Kingdom fit the game a lot more than the tools in Breath of the Wild fit Breath of the Wild. They give so much more room to experiment, and they also work really well with each other. There's also plenty of uses for each tool, but those are just the runes. What about the champion abilities? Now, Breath of the Wild has Revali's Gale, which flies you up to continue with paragliding. Daruk's Protection, which is just another shield that does some damage that you can also use even without holding a shield. Like for example, if you're holding a two-handed weapon, you could still shield with Daruk's Protection. Mipha's Grace, which acts as another fairy, giving you a second chance after dying and also gives bonus hearts. And Urbosa's Fury, which gives a lightning strike after charging up your attack long enough. Tears of the Kingdom has Tulin's wind push forward thingy. Yunobo has a roll forward which can break boulders and be used as an attack, kind of like a bomb replacement also. Sidon's water bubble acts as a shield, and once you attack, it shoots out like a water burst. It also makes water weapons stronger. Riju's ability is a lightning strike on wherever your arrow lands. And there's the giant mech that you could ride and control, where you can attach your weapons and give Zonai devices to. I think all of the Breath of the Wild abilities are really easy to use and pretty useful in a lot of situations. Like for example, Revali's Gale is just always useful to explore because you can't just use the towers to boost you up. You have to actually climb them up first. I mean, you can fast travel, but they don't send you up like in Tears of the Kingdom. The Tears of the Kingdom ones though are pretty useful only in specific situations, I would say, besides Tulin's Gust. Tears of the Kingdom also makes the abilities much harder to use. You have to walk up to each stage and interact with them to use the abilities, and they're usually just running around, so it's super frustrating and I end up mostly never using them besides Tulin's while in the air because he's right next to you in the air. So I think Breath of the Wild has better champion / sage abilities than Tears of the Kingdom, but Tears of the Kingdom has better runes. I would still say that Tears of the Kingdom has much better tools though. The runes and Zonai devices add so much more to the game than the champion abilities did to Breath of the Wild. I also want to compare the tutorial sections of each game because I think that's a really important part of these games specifically. Breath of the Wild has the Great Plateau, and Tears of the Kingdom has the Great Sky Island. Now which one works better? I'd say Breath of the Wild. The Great Plateau is probably the best tutorial I've ever experienced in any video game ever. It works so well to introduce the player to the mechanics without straight up saying it or pausing the game to make you read what to do like some other games. Tears of the Kingdom does this too with the Great Sky Island, but the Great Sky Island has so much more of a specific path compared to the Great Plateau. Once you finish the tutorial, the world opens up so much and leaves you shocked, and you get the paraglider. In Tears of the Kingdom, you finish the tutorial and get the freedom, but you gotta do even more to get the paraglider by going to Lookout Landing and, doing all that stuff. Some people might think that's a good thing to not be given the paraglider immediately after the tutorial, so players explore more without the paraglider, but I think the paraglider adds so much for exploration in the game, especially in Tears of the Kingdom when you're flying around and stuff, but that's the game where you have to do more to get it. Now let's talk about the stories. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can skip to this time. And yeah, let's go. Now, neither of these games have particularly great stories. They both work, but it's clear that the story isn't the main focus. Regardless, they're still worth talking about. Breath of the Wild has a pretty simple story. It doesn't have a bunch of crazy plot twists or anything, but I think it works really well for this game. You have to go out and explore to see a lot of the cutscenes, so it worked well with the gameplay loop. Tears of the Kingdom tries to be a lot more ambitious with the story though, giving a lot more of a focus on the new central characters in the story. I think the way that the story was implemented in Tears of the Kingdom is much worse though. The structure from Breath of the Wild doesn't work as well with the story Tears of the Kingdom is trying to tell. For one, Breath of the Wild has Link's memories you had to find, and each cutscene was one Link was involved in. Link actually got to interact with all of the champions and Zelda, and it made sense to be memories as Link forgot everything due to the time skip. The characters are definitely the best part of the story, seeing their interactions with each other. All the champions have a distinct personality that works well reflected with Link. Revali is cocky as hell and he thinks he should be the main character instead of Link. Daruk is kinda goofy, but he's a defensive and capable member that's ready for anything, and he's also a good leader. Urbosa is the clever and powerful member that knows exactly how Zelda feels and what Link means to her. And Mipha cares a lot more about Link and wants to support everyone by healing them and having their back. And we especially get to see Zelda's character evolve. She hates Link at first because he represents her own failures to her, and also she doesn't get to know him yet because he's always silent. But when Link saves Zelda from the Yiga clan, the way she feels about him changes completely. She appreciates him more and more. We also see her struggles affect her more and more as they get closer to the Calamity. She's constantly being told what her role is against Calamity Ganon by everyone in her life, but she can't figure out how to channel her power. She sees everyone else master their role like all the champions and Link, but she can't do anything for herself. No matter what she tries, nothing works, and eventually the Calamity arrives. After everything she tried, it doesn't work. She failed. Link makes sure to keep her safe even if he dies because that's his role. But as soon as he's about to be killed by the Guardian, Zelda's power awakens to save Link. Her love for Link is what ended up being the key. Since Link is hurt though, she ends up saving him and she puts all of her faith in Link to save her and the kingdom, and that's where you start the game. You don't know what you have to do because you forgot everything after 100 years, but the memories you regain makes you want to defeat Calamity Ganon more. There's also the king and Zelda telling you what to do at the beginning. You don't know what you have to do because you forgot everything after 100 years, but the memories you regain make you want to defeat Calamity Ganon more. In a game where you don't ever really have to beat the final boss to get an amazing experience, the story is one of the main reasons you actually end up beating the game. I think that Link's character also ends up working really well. He helps reflect every other character's personality with his silence, but he still has his own character. His silent demeanor is actually part of the story. He stays silent to not show any sign of burden or weakness in his role as Zelda's knight. This is a great way to make Link a good character in this game without giving him any voice lines to stay true to Zelda's identity. Everything works so well in Breath of the Wild, and I really do love the story. Now in Tears of the Kingdom, Link isn't even in the story much except for like the beginning. The focus is much more on Zelda and the new characters in this world. Ganon, Rauru, Minoru, and Sonia. That's fine itself, but it kind of divides you from the story that you're experiencing because you're seeing a story where you have no real involvement in until the end. There's also the problem that you can experience the cutscenes out of order and get spoiled for what happens next in the story. Breath of the Wild didn't really have this problem because we already know what happens. Link woke up 100 years later and you have to save Zelda. But the appeal of the cutscenes was to see the characters interact and develop, and it really helped support the story, but it wasn't required. Tears of the Kingdom has Dragon Tears, which are the new memories, except they aren't memories of Link. It's the memories of Zelda that got turned into tears when she became the Light Dragon. The problem with the Dragon Tears though is that we don't know what really happened when Zelda goes to the past. Our goal isn't clearly defined to be to defeat Ganondorf like it was in Breath of the Wild to defeat Calamity Ganon and save Zelda, because we don't even know where Zelda is. We have to find that out first, which kind of removes the aspect from Breath of the Wild where the story isn't required but it enhances your goal in the game. You just go to Calamity Ganon and you can beat him if you want to, but you don't have to. This time, it's a story that would be in a standard video game rather than what Breath of the Wild did, and there's nothing wrong with a story like that in other games, but it doesn't work well with the Breath of the Wild formula. Seeing this out of order spoils what happens. Like Sonia's death could be the first cutscene you see and you don't even know who the character is yet. Memories work because you have to find them in specific places, so it makes sense for Link to experience them out of order because that's how memories work. And it doesn't matter if you see those out of order because of what I said before. You already know what happens. The memories add more context and enhance the story. You don't need them to know what to do. In Tears of the Kingdom, the Dragon Tears are required for understanding the story, and they don't really work as individual moments for you to see like with the memories, because they tell a full story in order with big events in between. The full story the game tells is good, and the events do hit hard, but it just doesn't work as well as Breath of the Wild did for the game structure. Tears of the Kingdom also had a focus on the sages instead of the champions. Breath of the Wild had a focus on both. The sages were the current members that you had to talk to learn about the champions and the connection to each place that they belong to. But in Tears of the Kingdom, the ones from the past don't really matter, so when you complete each dungeon, you get a special cutscene with each sage of the past, except they never really give you a reason to care about those sages from the past. They just exist. They don't have personalities like the champions did, and the worst part is that each of them tell you the exact same thing. You don't get any new lore when you visit your second, third, or fourth dungeon. It's just the same thing as the first dungeon, but from a different person, and it doesn't matter what the person is because they don't have any personality. Now, Tears of the Kingdom does have some improvements from Breath of the Wild. It's not all just worse. For one, I really like the twist that Zelda turns into the Light Dragon. It adds a lot to her character that she, again, places all of her faith in Link and sacrifices herself for the kingdom, just like in Breath of the Wild. It's even better knowing that the Light Dragon is flying around the Great Sky Island at the start. Ganondorf is also a way better character. He's cool as hell in Tears of the Kingdom, and he's definitely the standout of all the characters. In Breath of the Wild, Ganondorf wasn't even there. It was just Calamity Ganon. It doesn't feel like you're having a duel with the iconic villain of Zelda in Breath of the Wild. Not saying it isn't cool in Breath of the Wild, but Tears of the Kingdom does feel like a duel with the iconic villain of Zelda. The final boss fight works so well in Tears of the Kingdom. The post-final boss fight segment is also much better in this game, with the Demon Dragon. Dark Beast Ganon was whatever, but the Demon Dragon is so cool because Zelda as a Light Dragon is there with you, and you're flying around and stuff and are actually doing damage rather than just hitting these big weak points like with Dark Beast Ganon. And again, I do like the events in the story a lot. It really feels grand, spanning across thousands of years and having a similar open-ended start to Breath of the Wild. But the Breath of the Wild start was the very first thing you see when you start the game. In Tears of the Kingdom, there's that beginning section when you're walking around that starts the story before the Great Sky Island. That, I think, should have just been either at the end of the Great Sky Island or just as a dragon tier, because it kind of interrupts the flow that Breath of the Wild made, where you see everything all at once and you don't know what to do and you just keep exploring and you find out what the goal is. So Tears of the Kingdom has some improvements and also some parts that are worse from Breath of the Wild. So which story is better? It's pretty close, but I'd actually say Breath of the Wild because it works much better with the game compared to Tears of the Kingdom. I still do like both of them though. I'll say Tears of the Kingdom is definitely more ambitious and epic. Now let's talk about the dungeons. In Breath of the Wild, there are the divine beasts. I like how there are these giant robots that actually roam the lands and we get to see them in the world, but they all kind of look the same while you're actually doing the dungeon part of them. Tears of the Kingdom's dungeons are much more unique for each area though. They also work well for each stage's abilities and character. I think the Divine Beasts are a really cool idea. They could have made each one way more unique. Tears of the Kingdom has much more personality in each dungeon, with each boss fight being completely different and having unique mechanics in them. So I would say Tears of the Kingdom has better dungeons because it just works better with each stage. The dungeon is about using the stage's abilities compared to Breath of the Wild where you just do puzzles. I also want to talk about music. I think the music in Breath of the Wild is so good. I love the smaller piano notes in the background while you explore. Once it's quiet though, you start paying attention to the other sounds, like your footsteps, because of the absence of music in that time, which immerses you more and more into the world. The music was also super memorable to me, and while replaying the game, I don't know man, it just did something to me. The town music is also amazing. Rito Village, Hatino Village, Kakariko Village, Sora's Domain, Terrytown, they're all incredible. Those are all comfort music for me. But the game has exciting music too. Hyrule Castle instills fear inside the player. The Dark Beast Ganon music gives an incredible touch to the finale. And the Breath of the Wild E3 2017 trailer music is so damn good that they couldn't even put it in the game. Tears of the Kingdom has epic music too, albeit reusing a lot of the music from Breath of the Wild. The new music is also amazing though. Lookout Landing is another comfort one. The main theme is also really good. Same with Breath of the Wild, I forgot to mention that. The Demon Dragon music also has that sense of finale like Dark Beast Ganon. And the Kogera music, my god. The Tears of the Kingdom trailer music is also amazing. So, after looking at everything, what's my final verdict? I think Breath of the Wild is still definitely worth playing. Tears of the Kingdom is incredible, and if someone experiences it first, they probably would like it even more than if someone played Tears of the Kingdom after Breath of the Wild. But I think Breath of the Wild does a few things better than Tears of the Kingdom, and if you play Tears of the Kingdom first, you wouldn't be able to play Breath of the Wild because it would feel more limiting, and it would be hard to go back to. Plus, this is a personal opinion, but I think Tears of the Kingdom open world is really fun to visit after Breath of the Wild because it feels like returning to home. I would recommend taking a break between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom though. Let Breath of the Wild sink in, and revisiting that world again with a bunch of new stuff in it will feel incredible. Now might also be the best time to experience Breath of the Wild if the rumors were true about the Switch 2 having an upgraded 4K version of it. We'll see at the upcoming Nintendo Direct though. Anyways, thanks for watching and I'll see you all next time. Have a good one.